Well, welcome back to Their Side. This month we're going to be featuring Brad Drury, and we are in the month of March 2024. This goes for about 13 minutes, and unfortunately my audio was not captured, so I'll just be putting my questions across as an audio track, and so that it doesn't just go randomly through the interview without any kind of context. So I hope you enjoy it, and Brad does mention during that interview about the chat that we had at Steve Joy's place with the entire Vermont crew, and that will be featured later on in the year. So I hope you enjoy this one. Thanks a lot. What's your first memory of skating?
First memory of skating is probably when I was about 11 years old. My brother had a ramp rack and I wasn't allowed to touch it, and so whenever he'd go out I would get on it at home. Mum and Dad had a ring driveway, so he used to just roll on it around the driveway, and so my next birthday I got a skateboard. Loved it that much. And also actually shortly after that skating Burnie Bowl in Tasmania and learning little backside airs that Christmas.
Who were your national influences?
National influences would have been guys like Tony Hallam, Gary Valentine. They were really prominent at the time when I was younger and growing up. Those guys also used to spend a fair bit of time coming out to Vermont, Tony especially. But both Tony and Gary drive me around a bit to Mornington or River's Edge, and they were really good. They were a bit older than me and had a car long before I did, so it was pretty cool to hang out with them. They had wheels and they were great skaters.
And what about your international influences?
International, I'd always loved Chris Miller for his style and the tricks he did. But then after living in America and getting to know Mike Fraser and spending a lot of time with him, and I skated with Mike a lot in Camp Woodward in Pennsylvania for 3 months, and I moved down to Tampa, Florida, where I was skating with Mike every day. And the technicality of that guy's tricks and the lines he does are just insane. And then on top of that, he's just an awesome bloke. So I'd certainly put Mike right up there.
Why skating and not something else?
I just can't think of anything else that made me feel that way for so many years. The buzz of learning a new trick, the thrill of just nailing a ride, and going higher, faster, skating with your mates. It didn't matter what time of day, you always knew you could go to the ramp and there'd be someone there. We'd go up to the ramp if we knew it was going to be a hot summer's day at 8 o'clock in the morning, and turn out we'd skate all day till 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And it was just the thrill of hanging out with your mates. We were just young kids without a care in the world.
Did you do anything before skating?
Before skating, I did used to play a lot of football. But once that was Aussie rules football. Once I started skating, I was quick to ditch footy. I did struggle to do both with the injuries as well.
What was the best level or achievement that you made during skating?
Best levels, certainly I won some of the local comps and comps around Australia. But my proudest moment in a competition, and I was never big on comps, I used to prefer demonstrations. Had a lot more fun in demos, but my proudest moment in a comp probably would have been qualifying either third or fourth place, I can't remember, but it was behind Rune Glifberg and Ben Pappas when Ben was right up there at I think it was Australian Championships or something like that at the showgrounds. Unfortunately, the next day in the finals I knocked myself out in my first run, so don't remember much of that.
Can you tell us how that happened and what happened?
Over-rotated a Mellon 540 and went straight to the deck. I was like a punch-drunk boxer. It's in a video somewhere, actually. I'm trying to stand up and push everyone away, and I just keep falling over.
What about the competitiveness amongst the skaters? Like, who did you bounce off the most?
I'd say a guy who pushed me a lot, and I think I used to push him. I'd put it more we fed off each other, was Stuart Bright, Chipmunk. But we weren't competing with each other. We're working hard on it together. No one was happier to see me learn a new trick than him, and vice versa. We really fed off each other. And But as far as competition goes, they were all friends, but there was guys like Dom, Keki, Trenton Miller, Tony Hallam, Chipmunk, and then before they went to the States, Tuss and Ben.
What was your proudest trick that you ever did?
Proudest tricks, probably Melon 540s. I learnt them when I was about 18, and when I learnt them, there was only probably a handful of people doing 540s, and they were always a trick I found reasonably easy. So I still remember the first one I made with Vermont, and they were always a trick I did have dialed. Another trick I really enjoyed was kickflip indies and variations to that. The first kickflip indie I landed was at Camp Woodward in America. I still remember that. And then another trick I was really proud of learning, which was on a vert ramp, was backside disaster reverts. So I learned them at Tampa. But also loved all the blunt variations too.
What about ramps and skate parks and that, and accessibility for you guys?
I was always really fortunate to have a local ramp. So I first started skating on the old Blue ramp, which was also known as Fab's ramp in Vermont. Some friends of ours from the ramp got caught knocking off plywood from one of the local houses, community house. I was away at the time, so luckily I wasn't involved, but the lady of the community house became the champion of getting a proper ramp built for us. And so she said, you know, we shouldn't be in this situation where we've got to go and steal wood to build a skateboard ramp. And she, as a result, her name was Margaret Banks. She got the original Vermont ramp built at the shopping centre, and that was even closer to my home. That was only a 5-minute roll down a hill. So I've always been pretty lucky. But then we also used to travel on wet days. We'd go to Mornington or River's Edge. Used to love going to Prahran, and those travelling to the different parks were always fun-filled adventures with a group of your mates, and you never knew what was going to happen when we were on the train. And
what about any funny stories?
Yeah, I got a lot of funny stories about those times. Just kids being kids. It was all reasonably harmless. Didn't seem like it at the time, but I remember a guy who ended up becoming a Vermont local. He was going to whack one of my mates with a baseball bat, and when he drew back, he knocked out his brother who was standing behind him. I remember being shot at the local tip when we used to climb in the tip next to the Vermont ramp when we were little kids. I'm talking 12 years old, and hotwire the conveyor and have bottles on the conveyor, and we'd throw rocks at it, and it was all harmless. But a security guy came and we ran up the hill, and I don't know if they were blanks or what, but he took 2 shots at us. Also remember setting an orchard on fire one day accidentally. We just had a little fire going, and got out of control, and the whole orchard went up. And so there was lots of stuff like that. Getting chased by a police helicopter one night for constantly ringing the doorbell at the dispatch at Coles at Vermont South. Nothing it was nothing serious, but yeah, it's all. You look back on it, I wouldn't be proud if my kids did that sort of stuff now.
What about any tragedies or losses that you experienced during that time of skating?
Yeah, unfortunately, way too many. I think I can probably roll off about 10 names now. But there's guys like John O'Porter was the motocross rider in the Pepsi Max team. So we used to tour, do an exhibition 6 months of the year around Australia and New Zealand together. So we'd spend a fair bit of time together. For 2 years in a row, that came as a real shock. He was killed in a motorcycle accident in Coolum. Then there was guys like Matt Anderson, Finn, Chris Payne more recently, Borgie, who I didn't really know, and then the besides Jono, the one that was really hard for me because he was a real close friend was Ben Pappas. Unfortunately, when Ben got into a bit of trouble and was stranded in Australia, I don't mean unfortunately, I mean unfortunately that he's gone, but he started hanging out with us a lot at Vermont, and we had some great times together. I'd known Ben since he was 9, but there was probably a year and a half where he was skating Vermont most days with Chipmunk and I, and if we weren't skating, we were going back to my house. He was teaching me how to play guitar, going to the movies, hanging out, and unfortunately we couldn't help Ben get over his demons, and so that was a real tragedy. It took a long time for me to get over it, and one regret I've got is at the time I was just I couldn't even go to his funeral. Knocked me around pretty hard. I felt I'd tried everything possible And to be honest with you, in the last few months there, I distanced myself from Ben because I just felt it had got out of control, and there was nothing more I could do.
Any friendships from back then that have, stood the test of time?
Certainly all the Vermont crew, as you saw the other week at Steve's house. We're all still good mates, and I think all the friendships have lasted because we've all got a common bond, and when we get together, we just keep laughing. That's all it is. It's not that I don't think I've seen Tuss since I left Tampa close to 20 years ago, but we spoke recently and texted each other a bit, so we're still in contact. We're trying to catch up. Tony Hallam was at my house recently. We had a gathering with all the Vermont crew for a Bondi comp. Back about a year and a half ago, I went back to Tampa, Florida, and caught up with the owner of Skate Park of Tampa, Brian Schaefer. Caught up with Mike Fraser, and also in California, hung out with Brian Howard and his family. Went to Legoland for the day. So they're all still friendships that I still got, and just because they're good, genuine people.
What about any rivals or fights or anything like that you had?
Yeah, I think the Vermont crew had no tolerance for dickheads, and certainly Chipmunk and I were on the same page with this. We just didn't have time for bullshit artists, for liars, for dickheads, prima donnas. So, and I think most of the Vermont crew were like that. So they didn't last. They soon felt unwelcome. And I think most of the skate community is pretty genuine, sincere people. We don't judge people by their skin colour or by their interest, or couldn't care, what someone's sexual preference is. If they treat each other with respect and they're good fun to hang out with, happy to call them a friend. And I think most of the skate community are like that.
And are you still skating today?
Unfortunately, I don't skate. I'll get on a board occasionally now and just go to Vermont and drop in, just paddless. The body's really not up to it. I've had two knee reconstructions. I've had back surgery. Had a lot of concussions, which have given me some neck and back issues. So I am a little concerned. I think one hard fall, I could end up doing spinal damage, but who knows? I might, as we mentioned before, might end up getting on a little ramp sometime. But the thing I do miss the most is that thrill, learning a new trick, hanging out with your mates. And one thing I always used to love and feed off was doing demonstrations in big crowds. The buzz of, at the music festivals, the big day outs, the Pepsi demos. I recall doing demos in front of, at times, maybe 50 or 100,000 people. And that, I really do miss that.
Do you have any, final thoughts about skating?
Just have fun. Enjoy it. Too many people put their focus on getting sponsored and learning tricks. That will all come if you have fun. If your focus is getting sponsored and learning tricks, you're probably in it for the wrong reason. Or, if your focus is to improve and get sponsored, you're probably in it for the wrong reason. Awesome to get sponsored, to improve if you're having fun. Nothing wrong with progress, but if your sole goal is to get sponsored, I think you're going to stress yourself out. You won't enjoy it. And we all know you learn a lot more, especially kids, when you're having fun. So my advice to anyone would be just to enjoy it, have fun, go with the flow. Don't take it too seriously. And look out for your mates.